1. Hey y'all, hope this finds you well, and I hope anyone currently listening to this at work is having a great shift or relaxing day off. It is with a heavy heart that I will most likely be resigning from my position as a night auditor in the next few days, if not by tomorrow. Since the latter half of March, my place of employment has not had a single week without complaints from either staff or guests. We're by no means a large hotel, or medium for that matter. We only have 60, but it's spaced across 4 floors. First and foremost of our complaints has been our single elevator. Since last year, we've had issues of it being off more than it's on. And it's completely out of commission at the time of writing. This has been an understandably sore spot for our guests, especially since we get a lot of them that are either older, have a lot of luggage, and oftentimes both. Now, what does that mean for staff? Why, it means running down to the bottom floor if you're housekeeping. Our laundry room is down there along with cleaning supplies, linens, cleaning supplies, you name it. Anything housekeeping related is there. For our poor housekeepers, that also means they have to haul all of their dirty linens down those steps, and haul what they need up the steps. As you can imagine, that gets pretty tiring pretty quickly and is very inefficient. On top of all this, they have to contend with the time crunch of at least half the hotel leaving, and the same amount coming in with a team that is generously categorized as bare minimum in size. Now, because of this, our housekeeping numbers have been dwindling. Did I also mention that we've gone through 6 laundry personnel with no current laundry staff? So what does front desk and audit get to handle? As you can imagine, a lack of housekeeping staff means a lack of clean rooms available for the desk to give or sell, and the occasional rag being left in a room. With that comes lack of revenue, upset guests, and desk agents being berated for things outside of their control. Now, something I've noticed that's nice amongst other hotels is that there's often more than just one person on site at any given time to at least give some kind of moral support, even if they're in entirely different departments. Us lovely 2 night auditors work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. on opposite halves of the week, which means that for 3.5 days we are completely alone until our trade-off with day shift or the other auditor being the only time we see another co-worker, outside of stragglers and meetings. Day shift enjoys the luxury of having co-workers that they can count on during their shift. Audit, not so much. No GM, no FDM, no housekeeping, no maintenance, no security, and now no breakfast attendant. Clogged toilet, audit. Unruly guests, audit. Billing, audit. Dirty sheets, audit. Start of breakfast, audit. Elevator not working, audit. T-Rex running around, audit. We are to handle any and all issues so the GM doesn't have to, if possible, from the GM's words. On top of all that, there's also rules that must be adhered to. Quiet hours, breakfast area not being a hangout spot, keeping guests from hanging around and drinking under foyer, where cars pass through, and making sure the T-Rex from earlier is at least keeping casualties to a minimum. Let's audit the rules, shall we? Quiet hours. To be adhered to but unenforceable due to no security per the GM. Breakfast area not being a hangout spot. If it's not profanity, it's things like towels being thrown as they demand that lights be on for their drunken shenanigans. Foyer not a hangout spot. If they didn't listen to the breakfast area reason, what makes you think they're going to listen to that? The T-Rex? If I get eaten, then suddenly I don't have problems. Wonder if it likes barbecue or honey mustard. Despite the various pleas made to the GM and owner, our concerns have been getting brushed off because they don't appear in guest reviews to be issues. Might have been because I've done everything I could to placate my guests so they wouldn't do that. But that could just be my vanity talking. As I write all this now, more for my sanity than for your listening pleasure, I'm painfully reminded how much I've changed from the fresh-faced employee who only wanted to ensure that people had a fantastic time at our hotel. I never wanted to be the front desk person that felt bothered with copious requests. I never wanted to be the person who's only there to pay their bills. I wanted to be the ideal front desk employee that did anything to please their guests. I wanted to be the one to make a good stay great. I genuinely used to love my job and the people that I'd meet. I used to have the stars in my eyes. Two, I recently started a job as a night auditor at a new hotel in the city. Yesterday I had my first fire alarm go off, 40 minutes before my shift ended, and I don't think I can handle the aftermath of that again. The hotel is new, but it's inside a listed building, so it's protected by law. This means that if a fire alarm is triggered, it will go straight to full alarm instead of giving a 3-minute warning first. You also need the fire department to give you the okay to turn it off, regardless if it's a false alarm. So, yesterday the alarm went off and I got the cell phone, emergency keys, and ran up 5 flights of stairs up to the room where the alarm was triggered. It was only a guess that had taken a hot AF shower and the steam set it off. I told the guest to air out the apartment and then called the fire department to inform them of the false alarm. While I ran up, guests started to call the phone, but I rejected the call so that I could call the fire department. While I was on the phone and coming back down to turn the fire alarm off, guests tried to ask what was going on, but I ignored them as I was on the call. The fire department wanted to ask some questions first before I turn it off, so I stood in front of the alarm for a solid 2 minutes before I was given the okay to turn it off. From start to finish, the alarm was on for 8 minutes. Adrenaline really makes you go fast. Then all hell broke loose. I told the guest it was a false alarm and that they could safely return to their rooms. One guest went full-on screaming, demanding that the breakfast should be open now. I informed her that it would open in 30 minutes, as that is the usual opening hour. This was unacceptable, and she started to harass the breakfast staff. Before I could go stop her, another guest demanded compensation for being woken up by the fire alarm. I just told her a no, and she went on to call me all sorts of things. She apparently was the guest I ignored when I was on the call with the fire department. A third guest was the one that had called when the fire alarm went off and was mad that I hadn't answered and explained the situation. I told her that if a fire alarm goes off, you evacuate. I had to be on the phone with the fire department and could not talk to any guest at that time. She called the hotel a death trap and that I wanted her to die if it was a real fire. I didn't, but kinda do now. The first shift then arrived to a fourth guest that was mad that the rooms didn't have a phone in them, and when explained that this is not a normal thing for hotels to have here in this country, he started screaming for us to use our heads. How am I supposed to get a hold of you? The reception is 24/7 open, and we have a number you can call from your own phone. What about an emergency like this? If this is real, I could have died. Sir, if the fire alarm goes off, the first thing you do is evacuate. Use your head! I was so close to smacking him and asking him to use his. Anyway, I was so drained at that point that I think my colleague saw I was done and let me leave without much of a handover. Bless his soul. How can people be like this? It's a necessary inconvenience that could save your life. You should be grateful that it works. 3. April 2018, Cabarete, Dominican Republic. I posted this years ago in an Italian Facebook page about rude customers. I recently got back in contact with my old boss, and it reminded me I had published this story. So I decided to roughly translate it here. I was 21 years old, female, a workaholic, and completely concentrated on my career. I was working in this beautiful, hippie, eco-green Buddhist hotel as trainee general manager. I had just gotten my earned responsibilities and power, and was enjoying running the place the way I wanted for the first time. The hotel was full of very chill, mellow, spiritual, you know the type, the kind of people that go on a 40-minute rant over how good it is to be connected. And where? While driving a 6-figure car and spending daddy's money on tantric yoga lessons, while forgetting that outside the resort people live in houses made of metal slates. Most of my clients were absolutely manageable, and some of them even nice, I know, right? But I have a nose for the special ones, and while I am the kindest, most professional manager I can be, I take no shit if you mistreat my colleagues for no reason. Getting to the story. 3 days a week, at a certain time in the morning, my duties include going to the front desk and opening registrations for the circus and trapeze classes. As per usual, I bring a tray of disgusting green smoothies that I pretend to absolutely love for the well-being of my wallet. I'm chatting with the trapeze teacher, waiting for registrations for the day, when she comes in. Blonde. So blonde, blinding blonde. Bright pink nails so long, I can only wonder how she's holding her phone without dropping it into the void. Anti-gravity nails, pink shorts, and pink bag probably worth a year of my salary. Her eyes are cold, like Greenland, like fucking penguins. And I can feel a shiver running down my spine, that sensation anybody that has worked in tourist service knows oh so well. You are about to destroy my mental health today. I know. And she is not alone, because the plague follows her, and tragedy never comes alone. The Spawn. He is about 5 years old, and from the moment he sets foot in the lobby, I know he is one of those horrible, spoiled brats. He starts running around touching everything, with music booming from a game on his phone. Yes, the 5-year-old had his own phone. He messes up all the flyers on the table in the center of the room, stands on the cushions of the sofa to touch the surfboard on top of it. Luckily it was nailed to the wall. Then keeps running and almost crashes in the glass cigar shelf. Pink Karen doesn't seem fazed by any of this, while I'm holding in a stroke every time he almost slaughters himself in some piece of furniture. I am almost hoping for the stupid surfboard to fall on him, ending his, my, and his mom's suffering. But let's go back to Barbie PMS. I'd like to register my son for trapeze lessons. No good morning, no how are you, no can my son please destroy your lobby? Nothing, awesome, you are doing great already. I put on my best customer service smile. Oh, good morning, miss. My boobs are fake and it's totally obvious. I can sign you up for the lessons, but I am afraid your child is not old enough for it. The minimum age allowed is 6 years old. There are plenty of other classes for him to enjoy. I can get you some flyers. Could I offer you a smoothie sample? She huffs and rolls her eyes. He is 6 years old, she says, grabbing a smoothie, not even a thank you. Hope you choke on it, you liar. I saw the crotch goblin's passport when you checked in. Did you forget? Oh, that's great then. I'll sign you up right away. Can I please have both your IDs? Huffing and puffing again, while the brat tries to grab the fishes in the aquarium. I signal to one of the bellboys to stop him, and he runs while I finish my conversation with Blonde Demon Mom. They don't pay me enough for this shit. She talks with the most bored and condescending tone. Our passports are in the room. My husband has the keys. Just sign us up. I really want to get rid of this woman and her hellspawn, currently trying to steal the luggage carriers in the background, because all the best goblins have ADHD, while the bellboy runs behind him. As soon as possible, so I look at the nice teacher with despair in my eyes, and she quickly says to me in Spanish, It's fine, he's just 1 year younger, make her sign a responsibility waiver though, just in case. I nod, and put the waiver in front of her. She signs it and steps out without a thank you or a goodbye. But at least she brings the small plague with. Cut to an hour later. Under the trapeze, a huge structure made out of metal, a big net and ropes. one of the two teachers is explaining what they are going to do step by step, while the other, the girl that was with me in the lobby, is making sure everybody is wearing the safety harness correctly. I'm giving a look from not too far. My lunch break is about to end, and I am sitting at one of the tables in the beachside restaurant, just a few meters away from the structure, which has been assembled on the beach. I am preparing mentally to go back to work when I hear commotion coming from the group. Give a look, spot the desperate look of nice teacher and sigh, ending my break early and taking my shoes off to go see WTF is going on. Once I reached the class, I noticed a mom on her phone showing hot Dominican instructors some Instagram pictures of herself and her globe-trotter's life. He is doing a very good job at being nice, but it's clear he just wants to do his job and get people on the ladder. Another instructor is waiting for them on top. Blondie is completely ignoring the cause of the commotion. The little son of Satan is running around. Nice teacher's giggling. She's holding the harness for the kid with a look of despair in her eyes. "I just need you to stay still a second, hon. Let me just put this on you, and then you can climb." He just runs around pushing people and kicking sand. But the climb gives him an even better idea. He starts climbing the incredibly tall rope ladder without any security measures or a helmet. And they say natural selection is not a thing. He can only get up like 5 steps when the hot Dominican teacher that was standing near the ladder grabs him by the leg. "Hey, buddy, you can't go up there if you don't let the teacher put the security belts on you." He starts trying to get him off, but the kid grabs the ladder with both his hands and just clings onto it, starting to screech like he's being dismembered.
"Let me go, Mommy, you won't let me go."
Let him go. He can put it on once he's up there. "That is against regulations, ma'am," I say. "He needs to wear the harness before going on the platform." She just shushes me with her hand and goes back to her phone. While the hot Dominican teacher and the nice teacher manage to get the harness on him with a huge effort and double effort. They're trying to explain to him what he will have to do once he is up there, that another teacher will hook him up to the security rope, and they will put up a little stool so he can reach the trapeze. Do you think he's listening? The fuck he is. He just sprints and runs up the ladder, and the two teachers just let him go with defeated looks. I am watching with this gargantuan hope he will splat on the net. One satisfaction in my life. Please? Nobody was expecting, everybody was expecting it, that once up there he would not listen to the expert like a normal person, but he would just leap towards the bar, missing it. He didn't even give them time to put up the stool for the children. And falling down like my expectations for the future of humanity. He falls on the net, of course, and thanks to the safety harness and the hook that lifted him while he was falling, sewing him down is totally unharmed, apart from the lines on his face, making him look like a freshly grilled hamburger. He wails, and Mommy screams, going to pick up her crying progeny. She turns to me and screams to my face,
"My son could have died."
He was never in danger, thanks to the security measures, ma'am. And your son was not following simple directions. I cannot allow him into this class if he will not listen to the rules for his security.
"He's just a kid. It's your staff's responsibility to take care of him during activities. This is too dangerous for a child."
I advised you not to register him due to his young age. You took responsibility and signed a waiver. I'm having this discussion with the mother while everybody else is just stunned at this woman. The crying plague was rescued from the net, and apparently the wailing was just a trick, because once Hamburger Face Kid was off the net while nobody is looking, he runs back to the ladder, ready to climb again. But hot Dominican teacher is having none of it. He tries again to pull him off the ladder with more strength this time, and again the little shit clings and screams and shakes the ladder and kicks, until he breaks it. He apparently turned the metal step so much it unscrewed. Now that's interesting. I can work with that. He falls on the sand with the teacher wailing again, and his mom rushes to him and grabs his hand.
I want to talk to a manager right now. This place is falling to pieces. It's dangerous. I want to make a complaint. I want these incompetent people fired, and I want compensation for my son's wounds.
Oh, yes, please, keep going. I take a step towards her. My customer service smile is long gone, and it turned into a cold expression of satisfaction for her foreseeable demise. Ma'am, I am the manager, and I have no intention of taking responsibility for the reckless behavior of your child that ignored any security measures, direction, and damaged the structure. Considering all this and the fact that you signed a legal waiver, I am going to have to charge you for the damage your son caused to the hotel. You have no idea the pleasure I felt saying those words. She opens her eyes fully for the first time since I saw her, and starts insulting pretty much everybody, while getting her stuff and dragging the wailing little Satan behind her.
You bitch! I'm not paying for anything. This place is shit. You have no idea who I am. We are never coming back to this savage country.
I can just signal to a security guys to come over and wave her on her way out. My employees will take you to your empty room and call you a cab, ma'am. You will hear from the hotel legal team soon enough. Have a great rest of your day. My boss and I had such a laugh the day after, and the husband actually did pay for the damage, so maybe he isn't that much of an a-hole. Hot Dominican teacher also asked me out a couple of days after that, but I am very gay, so that didn't go anywhere. Still nice of him. 4. I was working in a small, relatively expensive boutique hotel in the historic district of a city on the evening shift. It was pretty late in the evening, around 10 p.m., and my shift was wrapping up. We had no more check-ins for the evening, and I'd finished all tasks that needed to be done when a young man stumbled through the door and into the foyer of the renovated 19th century mansion. He was quite clearly unhoused, dirty, stained and torn clothing, unkempt hair, no belongings whatsoever, and says his car broke down and asks if he can use our phone. He was having trouble standing up, and his words were so heavily slurred, I had to ask multiple times what he had said. He swayed where he stood and seemed barely awake, let alone able to stand up straight and articulate. He did not smell like alcohol. He did smell vaguely of vomit, being the only staff in the building and a young woman new to the industry. I was hesitant to be rude to him, so I let him know that the phone is for staff use only, and if he wasn't a guest, he would need to leave. He said okay, asked if he could have some water from our dispenser. I allowed him to, taking this opportunity to text and call my manager and the owner, to no avail. After he had had a cup or two, I asked him again to leave, as he is not a guest. He says he does have the money and would like to book. Skeptical of this, I ask how he will be paying, and he once again asks to use a phone to call someone. After several minutes of arguing, him incoherently refusing to understand my no, and requests for him to leave, but coherent enough to keep begging, it becomes clear he would not be leaving, short of me physically removing him or calling the police. But seeing as he was not aggressive, polite, and claiming he'd like to be a paying customer, that didn't seem the fair route to take. Finally, I give in and say I can make a call for him if he can find someone to pay, desperately hoping whoever he calls refuses, as our hotel was not cheap. He gives me the number for his dad and agrees. I call and the man sleepily answers his phone. I explain that his son is in the foyer of our hotel and would like to book a night. The father asks,
"Does he look sober?"
No, sir. He does not.
Damn it, tell him no, I'm not doing this again. He's done this all over the country, and I'm done forking over money to fund his lifestyle. He refuses to get it together and is on the streets, and that's because of his choices. Tell him that. I'm not doing this again. No. Can I talk to him, please?
I gladly hand over the phone. The young addict answers his dad and spends a few minutes having the same barely coherent argument with his father as he has with me. continuing to beg and not hearing the no's I have no doubt his father has given him, responding with repeated, "Please, Dad, just this once. This is the last time, I swear." Until he stumbles back over and hands the phone to me wordlessly.
How much for a room for the night?
Our queens are $345 per night, sir.
Are you serious? Right, sorry. I'm sorry about this. Will you just rent him the room for one night, maybe two? I'll pay in full right now. I'm so sorry about this. I know this is not ideal, but hey, if you think this is annoying, be glad it's not your junkie son calling in the middle of the night for handouts. I don't want to, but it's this or the streets, and he's my son, you know?
I'm eyeing the kid as he stands, swaying, pretending to look over a boating tour brochure that I'm certain his eyes are not focused on enough to read. I understand that's difficult, sir, but we will not be able to rent to him for a second night.
I understand.
In the morning, the guest did not leave his room until asked to at 1 p.m., and when he did, he left in a shambles, snack and minibar raided, wrappers and beer cans left all over the room, beer spilled on the bed, and a few of our pieces of glassware broken. The room smelled heavily of cigarettes, with the butts of them left in our clear, globular sconces on either end of the bed. He returned the following evening, this time moderately coherent, with a prostitute in tow, and asked again to use our phone. Begging and arguing again when I said no. Luckily, the owner's wife, who was pregnant and in no mood, was there to back me up this time, and she promptly kicked him out. She apologized that I had to deal with that the previous evening, and made a new locked door policy after 9 p.m. I felt for both this kid and his dad, but I don't know if renting to him was the right move. It felt weirdly like I was contributing to this man's parents enabling him somehow. Our hotel wasn't top of the line, but it was relatively luxurious. And I'm not sure he needed access to a minibar stocked with 3 types of wine, craft beer, and locally bottled Negronis. But sending him back out in the November cold didn't seem right either. I don't know. I think about it a lot. 5. Let me give a bit of context here. Fresh college dropout, needing a higher than minimum wage to pay for halved rent with a roommate. On my mom's advice, she suggests a night audit hotel job. Great. I stay up late night anyways. Less people coming in than my previous fast food joints, etc. I find one paying $17 an hour, apply, interview, and get the job. Awesome. Except they advertised it as full-time night audit. This was false. They've had a full-time night audit for 8 years. This was just to fill the 2 remaining nights and some filler for day shifts. I stay anyways because I've never been paid more than $12 an hour. Anyways, management here is awful. First GM and AGM quit within 2 weeks of my hiring. I am trained for night audit 1 night and left alone the rest of them. Similar fashion for my now 2 other 3 to 11 shifts. The customers are rude, the system is old but overall manageable. Then the new GM gets hired, comes in, does not introduce herself to the staff, promotes one of us, and locks herself in her office. Luckily, to this day, I have never met her face to face. She locks the back office from front desk, bans sitting during 8-hour shifts. Luckily, I'm exempt due to fibromyalgia, and is generally lackluster at her job, which led to the situation last week. I get into my 3 to 11. 7 to 3 shift updates me that we are full and overbooked for the next day, which I'm also scheduled for. I have had awful experiences with walking guests, sending them to other hotels via reservations paid for by us, so I'm not excited, but it's part of the job. My tune changed considerably after learning a few things, those being 1, it was 6 guests we needed to walk, 2 morning shifted call set guests, who started cursing out 7 to 3 and claiming they would be arriving anyways at 3. Neither the GM or AGM had shown up that morning and likely wouldn't be the next morning either. Furthermore, it's already incredibly busy. A lot of softball teams were staying with us and presumably other hotels, because all of them were booked. I went down a list of maybe 50 local hotels, from the biggest brand names down to the hole-in-the-wall motels. There is nothing. I'm panicking because if I fail to clean up after my coworkers overriding the no rooms available pop-up when making reservations, it'll be me dealing with the fallout. I end up calling the other 3 to 11 begging for help, who reluctantly agrees to come in. He miraculously managed to get the 6 overbooking down to only 5, and sorted through it so most of them weren't reward members. Above a certain tier, we have to pay them $100 in cash when walking them. Because of my coworker, we no longer had to do that. After he's done, coworker advises I call the GM. She doesn't pick up, and neither does the AGM. I'm panicking more now. I call hotels again and manage to settle reservations for 4 of the 5 overbooks. GM finally picks up. I ask her how we're going to solve this. Instead of an answer, GM complains about the FDA's failing at our jobs, and makes no attempt to guide me on what to do. I tell her I'm beginning to feel ill, and she says to find cover for my shift the next day, on top of everything else I'm doing. By this point, I've made myself legitimately nauseous with anxiety, so when night audit comes in, I tell him I'm sick and won't be in the following day. I leave and immediately apply for an actual full-time night audit position. Turns out the AGM has to fill in for me, which is sweet karma since they haven't been doing their job. Oh well. Needless to say, I am actively looking for a new job. This one I am doing an interview for has the potential to pay $18 an hour as opposed to the $17, so I'm crossing my fingers. Interview is tomorrow. If you have any tips for me, please comment. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 117. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do press the like button, I would appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, you can support me through Patreon, where I put the links to the videos as soon as they are uploaded to YouTube. That way, you're not having to wait till YouTube approves things so I can publish them. It also lets you support the channel monetarily for as little or as much as you wish. You can also buy Hellfreezer merchandise. Both Patreon and the Teespring store are linked in the description, and you can make donations during streams and videos like this one. You don't have to. It's not required and is never expected, but it does help keep the lights on. Alrighty, let's see. Let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, inspired by nothing, really just popped into my head. Anybody who's ever had to move internationally, specifically from the US to the UK, how did you do it? Which movers did you use? What was your experience? And can you offer any advice to, I don't know, people who might be doing the same thing? And in this completely fictitious scenario, you might want to be moving not literally every possession you have, but certainly some of the larger, more sentimental and practical ones that would just be too expensive to part with. Please do leave your answers in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.